Hey, welcome. It is Wednesday, July 29th, 2026. Summer is almost over.
Don't
Oh,
say
wait a
Yeah, we
that.
second.
got
No,
what?
Dwight. You don't jump the gun there.
What?
Why are you going to
Don't
start
say.
us on a downer like that?
Jesus, wow.
I'm building up. Anyways, we are joined by our special guest, Delegate Chris Tomlinson from Carroll County and Frederick. Welcome to the show. Our hosts tonight are Mark Unkefer and Jackie Saxton. Take it away, guys.
Jackie, just to grab the lead here, I think Dwight meant in his lead up is summer is almost over for Delegate Chris Tomlinson because of the special session.
Look at you with the segue. Yes, you are absolutely right. So, Delegate Tomlinson, first of all, thank you for joining us. We obviously have been seeing a lot coming out in the lead up to the special session coming up next week. And now, just breaking hot off the presses prior to us going live, we have these new statements about the political malpractice that the Democrats are doing, now saying that only 50 people are going to get to testify. And if more people sign up, which we all know there will be more than 50 people, that the chairman gets to decide who gets to testify. That's not going to be skewed at all. They're looking at another bill, even though they said they weren't going to do that. So all kinds of shenanigans going on. So what can you tell us about what's going on?
Yeah, so number one, I'll be front and center on this. I'm on the Glee committee, House Glee Committee, Government, Labor, and Elections, and what we're gonna be doing is there's gonna be a joint bill hearing between the Senate Triple E Committee and then the House Glee Committee. So we're just gonna do the bill hearing all together. And so as the ranking Republican on Glee, I'll be very involved in this. In the bill hearing, and then what we as a caucus decide to do as far as how we're going to, try to stop this from passing, which will be incredibly hard. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot to discuss. I mean, we can talk about the contents of the actual bill. It's a small 3-page bill that closely mirrors the House bill that was passed early in the 2026 legislative session that Senate President Ferguson refused to move. The difference is this bill does not have a map associated with it. This bill will put a constitutional amendment on the ballot for voters in November. And if passed, essentially, it will make it incredibly easy for the Democrats to redistrict come next year, and they will pretty much have no rules to abide by. They're going to make it so the rules that exist in the Maryland's Constitution for legislative redistricting don't apply, and they'll pretty much be able to do just about whatever they want, and that's the scary part about all this.
So what does that mean from a legal challenge perspective if, hypothetically speaking, it were to pass on the referendum in November and they do draw some outrageous map? If by these whatever people are going to be blindly voting for and probably clearly not understanding if they vote yes on it, does that mean that even going into like 2030 and like the actual redistricting period, that's going to be the same thing when they try to draw maps?
So what they're doing is with the language in the question and in the bill is they're trying to go after a couple of things that happened in 22 when there was challenges. And so in 22 things ended up in an Anne Arundel County Circuit courtroom with Judge Bategula, and who by all imagination is hardly is hardly a Republican. I mean, she had worked for Senator Barbara Mikulski. She was the U.S. attorney for Maryland, I believe, under Bill Clinton. She was appointed by Glenn Denning to serve on the Court of Appeals, now the Supreme Court. So this is a woman who, by all accounts, is very much so a Democrat. But she was filling in. She's over 70 years old, so she's not so she had to retire as a regular judge. So, but she fills in, and so what happened was that she had made some opinions, or had an opinion that that the language that is in our Maryland Constitution, Article 3, Section 4, that language that talks about legislative districts, in her opinion, that same language covered congressional races or congressional redistricting, which, and in all fairness, the Maryland Constitution does not touch on congressional redistricting, oddly enough. But in her opinion, the criteria that applies to shaping districts for the legislature should also apply to congressional districts. And so with this language, they're doing two things. They are making it very clear. I mean, the language, straight up says that the language in the Maryland Constitution this is the amendment or the constitutional amendment that will be a ballot question. It's making it very clear that the existing language under Article 3, Section 4 is 100% only for drawing up legislative districts. So we're talking about things like that a legislative district shall consist. This is the existing language under Section 4. Each legislative district shall consist of adjoining territory, which a lot of people refer to as contiguous, be compact in form, and be of substantially equal population. And due regard shall be given to natural boundaries and the boundaries of political subdivisions. So they're saying, if this constitutional amendment passes, it's making it very clear that that all those things that I just said don't apply to congressional redistricting, and they're trying to squash what Judge Battaglia, I don't know why I'm in trouble saying her name, what she in her opinion came to a conclusion on. All that's bullcrap and doesn't count, doesn't matter. I will say that was in a circuit courtroom, so it's not case law anyhow. But the Democrats have always had this fear that if or when these case ends up in front of the Supreme Court, that other judges could adopt what she came to as a conclusion. And so they're basically trying to squash that with the amendment or with the proposed constitutional amendment. And then the other part of the constitutional amendment, also addressing this 22 issue, was it says that the original jurisdiction of any disputes on congressional redistricting will end up before the Supreme Court. Once again, they're trying to make sure this doesn't end up in a circuit courtroom. They want to make sure it ends up in the Supreme Court. And so, and if you look at the language, and then the last part of the actual question that's at the bottom of the bill says that and requires the criteria for boundaries of congressional districts to be determined by applicable federal laws. Point is that if you're a voter, I think, and you're reading this, I think you're gonna, unless you've been paying attention, like all of us, most voters are gonna look at this and be like, "What is this even changing?" Clarifies that certain standards in the Constitution only applies to districts used to elect members of General Assembly. Okay, original jurisdiction. Okay, well, okay. I mean, in no way does the constitutional amendment ballot question. It doesn't make it clear that this is going to result in some of the most gerrymandered districts of all time, even worse than what we've seen in Maryland. And that's exactly why they're doing all this, is so they're making it so they are essentially zero. There'll be no rules when it comes to congressional redistricting.
So it's worth probably going back to recall some of the history about with Judge.
It is interesting though, because they do have in the bill that came out today in the preamble, which really doesn't mean all that much, but it's interesting. It gives you kind of like an idea of what they're thinking. In the preamble, it talks about that. Let me find it here. It does say, whereas preserving Maryland's cohesive communities of interest connected by shared civic, social, economic, political subdivisions, and other common interests without unnecessary fragmentation is a legitimate neutral consideration in congressional districting. I think it's interesting they use this phrase without unnecessary fragmentation. And what they don't use is they very clearly don't use any of the language That's from Article 3, Section 4. They don't mention anything about the adjoining territory, aka contiguous. They don't say about anything about being compact in form, anything about a substantially equal population, although federal law requires that. So that's kind of covered already. But they kind of give you an idea of what they're considering to be fair districts, but it's completely different than what the legislative districts are. Once again, it's the preamble, so it's not really, it's not in the actual, it's not going to show up in the actual Constitution if or when the amendment passes.
So it's worth perhaps taking a step back to talk about the consequences of battalion.
I think you're muted, Mark.
Oh, I
No?
hear Mark. Can you hear me?
Okay.
I can hear you, Jackie.
Okay. Can you hear me now?
You can't hear Mark.
No.
That's weird.
How about now? Can you hear him now?
Can you hear me now? I didn't do anything.
Hey, Mark, do what we did last week. Just go out and come back in.
Maybe that's why. I don't know if Mark was asking questions earlier, and I just kind of walked all over it because I couldn't hear him.
Worst case, I can transcribe. I can translate. Yeah. So it's definitely, we know they're going to play as many tricks as they can on the language, but then there's also this part about the testifying itself. And we know that there are a lot of people, even just from the last time we heard bills on public testimony for redistricting, there were hundreds of people who signed up, right? From both sides of the aisle. So what is that going to look like with this new tamp down that they're putting? It's only going to be 50 people. They're going to get to hand pick who it is.
Now I can't hear Jackie.
Oh boy. Can you hear me, Mark?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you, Joy.
Can you hear me?
I can hear Mark.
Well,
Jackie, same thing.
did that work?
I can hear. Okay, I think I can hear all three now.
Okay.
Huzzah.
Okay. So go ahead
Let's
with
stick around.
Jackie's question, and then I'll come back to mine.
Yeah. I don't, did you get the gist of it? Or should I go again?
Yeah. So, So they announced today that they're going to allow for 50 people to provide testimony, whether it's in person or virtual. We all know more than 50 people are going to sign up. We saw this with the governor's kind of phony baloney redistricting commission from late last year, early this year. There's plenty of people who are going to be interested. Any regular folks with no titles behind their names, to people who to party leaders, to elected officials on the county level or federal level, to folks who are experts on this kind of subject matter. There'll be well over 50 people. But the problem is they've made it clear that if there's over 50, they're going to leave it up to leadership to decide who gets to actually speak. And the other thing that's concerning is that they're not, and it frustrates me that they're not saying that they're going to make sure it's equal voices heard, which I'd like for them to come out and say, okay, if we're going to cut it off at 50, let's have 25 people who are in support of the bill and 25 people who are opposed to the bill. And that's what they do in some of the committees. If you've introduced a bill the prior year and you're coming back for a second, third, fourth time introducing the bill, what they'll do is the committee chair says, we're only going to allow the legislator who's introducing the bill speak and one person who's in support of the bill. And then we're going to allow 2 people in opposition. So 2 and 2, which is fair. But that's not what they're doing here. And if I could only imagine, how much they're going to try to drown out the voices of conservatives and people who think who oppose this.
All right, Mark, you go.
I was going to go back. Hopefully, you could hear the question. We obviously talked quite extensively about Judge Battaglia's decision during the last redistricting, when we thought was going to last 10 years. It's kind of useful to kind of just recap why what she did was so significant, because, and I won't, perhaps you can kind of describe the fact that what was the consequence of her decision, and why was that so important, and why, and I think that also sets up why the Democrats are trying so hard to basically reverse the consequences of what she decided.
Oh yeah, what she decided was, like I said, her her opinion at the end was that the language under Section 4 of Article 3 of Maryland's Constitution, related to legislative redistricting, that also applies to congressional redistricting. And then the other part was that she found that that the proposed maps violated those same constitutional standards, and therefore it was extreme partisan gerrymandering, and it forced us to go, the Democrats to go back and come up with a new map that, it's more fair than what they had. It allowed us to continue to have one Republican member of Congress, Andy Harris. They were originally, with their map, they were trying to drown out Andy's district and make sure we'd have no representation. So the new map that came back was certainly less gerrymandered. It gave us a fighting chance out in 6. Unfortunately, it hasn't worked out for us, mostly because some of the richest members of Congress run in that district as Democrats. But her decision allowed us to, as Republicans, to end up with a more fair, less gerrymandered map, and that's pissed off the Democrats. That's always pissed them off. So now, as the Democrats jump into this nationwide mid-cycle redistricting battle, they're trying to revisit 2022 and make sure that none of what happened can get in the way or impact what they're trying to do, which is create the most gerrymandered congressional map that we've ever seen. To eliminate, at the end of the day, this whole exercise is to completely eliminate District 1, so Maryland has 0 Republican representation. It's a long way of getting there, but they ran out of time. The reality is they ran out of time because the Senate president didn't want to entertain this during session, and then a couple things, and we can go into that, a couple things affected his decision, and after session, Senate President Ferguson changed his mind and said, let's actually jump into this redistricting battle. Well, it was too late to actually do mid-cycle congressional redistricting. So instead of just outright doing it, what they had to do was they're changing the Constitution. They're trying to change the Constitution via a ballot question in November, which will then allow them to come up with new maps next year, pass them in the 2027 legislative district, so that they affect. So then they go into effect for the 2028 congressional election, which at that point they would basically make it close to impossible for Andy Harris to get reelected.
Yeah, I mean, one way to approach it is they're by doing this constitutional amendment, they're addressing one of Ferguson's concern, which was that if they were overly aggressive in their redistricting, and the courts would act, the constitutional amendment would provide a sort of legal basis in order to protect that. So,
yep.
In effect, that the constitutional language addresses what was Ferguson's concern, which is what they're trying to do under existing law would put them at risk. And there was actually also some fear that if they created new lines and the courts tossed them out under the existing constitutional requirements, that we could go back to the lines that had been proposed by the Hogan Commission, which were I think arguably much fairer. They were the product of a bipartisan commission that kind of balanced interests and avoided jumping lines and all that other good stuff.
So what are the chances then from a legal perspective, because let's play this out and assume it does pass, especially because we know that they're probably going to use some fun language tricks to make it seem like this is such a great thing on the ballot. So what does that legal challenge look like, especially if they have this constitutional amendment backing them up? Because we know that it's going to go to a legal challenge. If it gets
yeah. There will be a legal challenge. it's because we're doing this so late. I mean, the reason why the Senate, or the reason why the Democrats said that we had to do it right now, was because this is going to be early August, and next week, early August, and the election is in early November. And so the folks at the Board of Elections, they are, and we already saw how this played out in the primary with the vendor and the mistakes that were made with printing ballots. And so, yeah, these guys, I mean, they're pretty much finalizing right now what those ballots will look like and working with the vendor. And I think if this doesn't get done this week, if this doesn't pass, I believe next week, I think it would be too late for them to squeeze on another ballot question on the ballot. And so I don't know how, and you're right, conservatives are going to challenge this from a legal perspective. I don't know how that works out with the logistics of getting ballots prepared and printed. If this thing gets delayed by even just a few days, I don't know logistically what the Board of Elections would do.
So I'm not aware, have there been some legal theories offered for a potential challenge to first keep it from off the ballot?
I mean, I have not heard yet, but then again,
okay.
the bill just came out a couple
Right.
hours ago, or midday. So everybody's just kind of trying to, kind of absorb the information. And so, I mean, like I said, I mean, the language in the proposed actual ballot question, I mean, is fairly simple.
I mean, I think hope springs eternal in this, in that in Virginia they managed to screw the process up I think, unless in an unexpected way, and then faced an unexpected challenge. At least I wasn't aware of it until it took place as a potential strategy. So perhaps there's some hope or expectation. Obviously, that took place after it had already passed, and then was a challenge to the timing and the process by which the amendment took place. I can only gently say this. It looks like this is pretty much a standard constitutional amendment process.
Yeah, I mean, I'm rereading over the language. I mean, it's 3 sentences. I don't think, the way the bill is written, as it's presented right now, I don't think anything in the language of the ballot question is necessarily untruthful. I think you could say misleading, because it's not really giving the true intention of what they're trying to do here. But I don't think anything's untruthful. I mean, I guess you could maybe argue when they say the proposed constitutional amendment clarifies that certain standards in the Maryland Constitution only are apply to only districts used to elect members of the General Assembly. I guess you could try to make some argument. Well, what are those certain standards?
Right.
But
narrow what that is. Yeah.
Well, so I guess I'll ask my next question then, because it's really what's going to come down to is the marketing aspect of how do you sell this amendment to people? Because the Dems are going to have signs up and down every single highway and ads running and everything about why they need to vote yes on this amendment and how it's going to save America from the Trump administration, whatever. So what do we as Republicans do to counter that? Because obviously we know that our war chest is not as big as theirs, but we have the right message here. So how do we counter that messaging?
I mean,
it's ironic, though, that it wouldn't take effect until the election when Trump leaves office.
It's no longer president. Yeah.
Well, anyway, there'll be 17 days while any new congressman would be in office while Trump was also in office.
I mean, our side, we're gonna make the argument that a vote for this ballot question is a vote for extreme gerrymandering, and they're gonna say a vote for this is just one more way to push back against big bad evil Donald Trump and his administration. But I mean, I think that states where in states where they have made similar changes, I don't think voters have, quite frankly, cared about the argument that it's just promoting and furthering extreme gerrymandering. And I'm saying that on both sides.
Yeah.
And I don't know if people are just don't. I think a lot of people probably don't know what they're voting on, but I think for the people who do know what they're voting on, they're like, I don't really care about extreme.
Right.
If whoever's in the majority, whether it's a Republican majority state or a Democrat majority state, I think that we're at a point where both sides are like, well, we've got the numbers, screw the minority, and I'm all for extreme gerrymandering.
Which is a dangerous place to be as a country when there's going to be like next to no swing seats left if all of this pans out. But, you know, to your point, I think even just the word gerrymandering and the whole concept of redistricting is such like a political insider issue and topic, right? Like your average voter is not paying attention. Like they do the census because I think they're supposed to do it every 10 years. I don't think they understand the concept of this is what this means. And that
Can I take a slightly contrary view on that and get your reaction to it, Chris? Which is that when you look at gerrymandering or redistricting for multiple cycles in a variety of states, there has been a tendency for states that are, for lack of a better word, too aggressive in trying to maximize the number of seats for their district to make those seats very vulnerable in swing elections that go in the opposite of direction of what was intended, and see large numbers of flips take place. Because you know, if you're packing lots of people in, then you end up getting the result that you get, you know, that typically takes place. But if you're down to 55, 45 in order to kind of take your partisans and, you know, average them across the state so that you get all the seats in, you risk the fact that if there's a swing of 5 or 6 votes against you, that you end up with a result that was not anticipated. And in particular, for example, the redistricting in Texas could be especially vulnerable, the Republican redistricting in Texas, in that the assumption was based on it seems to have been made on the presidential turnout in 2024, and the gubernatorial years can be very different. And they're assuming in Texas that the Hispanic number, which was elevated for Trump in 2024, could recede. And as a result, they don't get the return. Now, this isn't just a phenomenon for Republican redistricting. It's a phenomenon for Democratic redistricting as well. When you look in Maryland, it wasn't that long ago. I'm not that old. When I first came to Maryland, we had redistricting that was we had districts that were 4 and 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats. And you can go back and look and see where they picked up, where each party picked up those. So let me put that in the form of a question. This is a little like Jeopardy, right? So is there any discussion, Chris, about the prospects of possibly being too aggressive and in going after Andy Harris, knocking Democrats out of a particular area and basically jeopardizing, say, District 6, or creating a district like Bob Erlich had in...
We have to go somewhere.
Yeah, they have to go somewhere.
They're when the map that was proposed late last year, early this year,
Right.
Based on the work of that, you know, I mean, I don't know what you want to call it, just nonsensical redistricting commission. That was made up of 5 people, and you know, I think it was 1 Republican, a mayor from out west,
who ended up pretty much disowning the whole thing.
Yeah. That the map that they came out with, I remember it being noticeable that So you had Angela also Brooks being loud. You had Chris Van Hollen as our two senators being loud about, we need this redistricting. You had a few members of Congress, but noticeably, I remember Johnny O and Sarah Elbreth we're not shouting shouting on the street corners and demanding redistricting, because if you looked at what was being proposed, their districts were getting very much so watered down, and made both certainly more more at play. I'm not saying that there's any guarantee that we could have picked up any of those seats as Republicans, but it certainly would have put them more at play than they are as they exist now. So you're right. They could end up, like you said, and we've seen across the country that some of these parties or some of these states where the majority party just goes overboard, it ends up biting them in the butt at the end of the day.
So
We shall see.
Yeah, I say let's shift gears a little bit to this other bill that they're now saying that they're going to look at as well. So can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah. So the issue with that is that, and I confirmed this with a couple people today. So this was a bill that was passed that is putting another constitutional amendment on the ballot, another ballot question statewide that will make changes to the Maryland's Constitution. So what happened was, and this happens, all the time. There was a crossfile, so there was a House version and a Senate version. Sometimes both versions of a bill get passed, or not both versions. They have to be mirror images of each other in order for both to pass. But sometimes the House version passes, the Senate doesn't, vice versa. In this case, the problem is that both the House and Senate version passed. And so as things stand now, if we don't take any action on this, the same ballot question will appear twice on the ballot, which a part of me says voters are already so confused when it comes to these things. Why not just have the same question on there twice? Let's just see how it goes. Maybe what happens if the same question, people vote for it, the one, and then the other one they vote against. Who knows? Let's just have fun with it.
Got it. So it's more of a logistical thing than anything else.
Yeah. If an action isn't taking, if we don't take action on this, you'll see the same exact ballot question on there twice, which most people will probably just think the vendor screwed up again.
Right. And I'm wondering why it took them this long to notice that when they were, so out and out that we're not going to hear any other bills. This is just the redistricting and nothing else. Because then you're kind of, in a way, still opening up that can of worms of, well, we're hearing this one. Why can't we do something about the budget crisis and the taxes and the energy bills? And, so why that?
Yeah, somebody clearly did not catch that and realize at the time that you shouldn't pass two versions, or both the House and Senate version of a constitutional amendment. I know that in Carroll County, our bonding authority bill that we take every single year, and it always passes. We like to put it in both on the House side and the Senate side because just in case something was to go wrong, you never know. We want to make sure both pass. We only need one version to pass. But I think the last 3 years we've passed both versions, and then every year the governor vetoes one of them because both can't, because then you would have double bonding authority. And somebody always reaches it. The first year we reached out to the governor's office and we were like, why did you do this? And they explained, well, you can't have both. And then ever since then, I always have somebody reach out to me when they see the list of the governor's vetoes and they're like, oh my God, why would they do that to you? Why would they do it to Carol's bonding? I'm like, no, it's all right.
Gotcha. Well, before we go into our let's plug everyone's things. You got anything else, Mark?
I don't. So I'll hand back to you. I know you've got some barbecues coming up. And I understand you're doing something next week, Chris.
Yeah, so let's start with Chris because he's the candidate.
With me next week, I'll be in special session where I can't
Yes,
raise.
exactly.
I can't raise. I can't raise any. In fact, I need to remember to turn off my antidote on Monday because once you're in
Everyone
one,
send Chris money now.
yes,
Oh, I think that's going to be a Direct Line News story. We're going to see which delegates and senators have their antidotes still going during special session.
yes, and make sure. And I'm going to make a note right now to remind myself and make sure if any of the Democrats have theirs on, or what is theirs called, Blue Act or
Act Blue.
Act Blue.
Act Blue, yeah.
Make sure you donate $1 to them,
$1.
so they
What's the YRs on that?
so they get a fine.
We know that the Board of Elections in Maryland is really going to jump on that, don't we? Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, definitely send money to Chris now or after special session, but don't do it during special session.
Yeah, no.
So other than that, though, once special session's over, do you have any fundraisers coming up? I think I got something in the mail from you, at least semi-recently.
No, I don't have anything scheduled right now, but I will certainly in the fall. I know Carroll County, we're having our Carroll County Republican Central Committee. They're hosting. I think actually it's kind of a collaboration between our different clubs and the Central Committee. We're having kind of a unity picnic on Sunday, the 23rd of August. So I'll promote that.
Awesome. Well, I will go next for YRs. Our big thing is we're having our big red, white, and barbecue on September 27th. That's going to be in Iamsville, in Frederick County. And we are partnering to make this also our convention and day of service. So the day of service aspect is we really want to highlight the fact that the Democrats in the budget last session took a lot of money from disability services. So we are going to be having advocates out from the disabilities community in the state. And we're going to be doing a panel discussion with hopefully one of our sitting delegates who are reaching out to a couple of our candidates who also have children with disabilities and members of the disability services community and some of these programs to talk about what that money actually goes towards funding. We're going to have a table set up where people can write letters to their legislators to advocate that that funding be restored in the upcoming legislative session. And we're going to be donating a portion of the proceeds back to the disability services community. So please, everybody, buy tickets, buy massive sponsorships because it's going to a good cause and it's going to be bringing awareness to something that I think people on both sides of the aisle are pretty pissed off about. So definitely come to that.
Yep. Jackie, if you need any activists or parents of kids with disabilities, I can send you plenty of names.
I'll send you the flyer if you want to share it out. Because even if you're just looking for a fun barbecue, it's $25 a person. Children come for free. You know, it's going to be, there's a petting zoo. We're looking on maybe getting a magician. So it's also just going to be a fun family day out. After church hours is from 2 to 6. Mark, what do you got going on? Oh yeah,
Dwight. I'm gonna give the mic to Dwight.
We have Pizza and Politics next Thursday, and it's going to be a special Pizza and Politics. Sonia Dunn, our wonderful candidate for comptroller, wants to come and turn it into a meet and greet. And since we really didn't have a guest schedule, I said, sure, we can do a meet and greet. So we've got a meet and greet for Sonia Dunn in Montgomery County next week. And good news is they're going to be doing all the invitations for it.
Even better. Awesome.
Yeah. So that's what we got going on. And check out our new website. It looks really cool. We're still working out a few bugs. And hit the Montgomery County Republican Club for more articles if you want more than what you see on the Substack. Our club puts out 4 to 6 articles a day, and they're fun and they're hilarious. So check it out, mcgopclub.com or directline.substack.com.
Awesome. All right. Well, Delegate Tomlinson, thank you so much for joining us tonight, and thank you for fighting the good fight for us in Annapolis, including next week. And yes, Mark.
I was going to say, and so when you're through with special session, where are you going to go have an Italian meal?
Might I recommend Masoni's?
Yes, there's no place better than Masoni's.
And with that, we are going to wrap for the night. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will be back next week.
And
thanks,
at
Chris.
Masoni's, mention the Bob and Kendall podcast. You get some discount. Cool.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
All right. See you guys.
Rossoni, where Italian cuisine